My walkout song will be Bad Motherfucker by Kid Rock. I love that song. I've used it a few times in a couple fights, and I just feel like it kind of sets the tone for me entering the cage.
Jacob Zara here with Chad Anheliger in advance of his UFC debut coming up. Chad, you had in your early career kind of a mix of wins and losses, and then you put together a real solid string of victories to get your shot onto the Contender series. So what do you attribute that consistent winning to?
There's a couple things that added to that. For one, I just wasn't happy with my career and the way it was going. I know I had to change things, and I switched gyms at that time. So I moved to Champions Creed, and I've been at Champions Creed. I've never lost since I've been there. So, I mean, that's as obvious of a result as you can get that I made the right move by switching gyms. And I switched gyms, but in doing that, I had to switch my mentality too. These fights were the importance of my win streak were each fight was my most important fight because I could not lose again if I wanted to make it to the UFC, and that was always my goal. So I kind of got those losses out of the way early, and then I had to right the ship and be as professional and as serious about every single fight as I could be, and I was able to win them, and it was able to get me in the UFC.
That string of wins did lead to the Contender series, and when you were on that show, they talked about it quite a bit. You were the biggest underdog on the card. You said that you had you were fighting people on social media essentially before you got in there, and then you had a long list of people that you're going to say, "I told you I could do it." So, do the odds really matter to you at all once you're in there?
The odds, no, that doesn't really make a big difference. And through my whole career, it's been up and down. I was the underdog in the majority of my fights by a lot. It's so hard to speculate these odds. It seems to be a big thing lately. Everybody wants to bet on fights, so everybody wants to talk about the odds. But if everybody knew what they were talking about when it comes to odds, we wouldn't have to have the fight. Like the fights are one of the harder things to know what's going to happen because every night you never know. Certain person feels a certain way. Certain matchups. Odds don't really weigh very heavy in my mind anyway. The one thing that was getting to me though was a lot of people. You can have your prediction on a fight, but a lot of people were writing me off like I didn't belong there, and that's what really was getting to me. That I was just a showcase for Gafurov to come in and look great before going on to the UFC, and that's what really bugged me because I'd earned my way on there. I earned my spot, and I deserved the respect, and then I ended up taking the respect by getting the win.
There's almost nothing worse that you can call a fighter. I think a stepping stone. Sometimes gatekeeper is used as a sort of slightly more palatable term for that, but I don't think people like that term very much either. Everybody wants to be that next guy. They're not anybody's stepping stone, right? As you say. Notable from that performance too, I want to say, your takedown defense, your get back up, your ability to get back up was greatly highlighted, both by your own performance, but also by the commentary crew. And I was wondering how you felt about like your own ability to do that. And it really probably won you the fight ultimately. And how you felt maybe listening back. You probably watched the fight back and hearing DC his commentary saying, "Wow, really impressed with this young man's wrestling." And that's pretty high praise coming from someone like him.
The fight, it actually went picture perfect for me because that was always kind of one of the glaring things that people still didn't know how skilled I was, because a lot of my victories come from striking, and a lot of my opponents, their game plans are always to get me down, hold me down, these type of things. So if anybody, people see that a lot and they question what my ability is in grappling. My ability is very high in grappling. It's just not how I like to win my fights because I usually have other paths that are a little bit more fan friendly, more friendly to my style. I like to take guys out on the feet. So it was a great opportunity to show that I could handle the best grapplers in the world. So it kind of, put everybody on notice. Like, okay, we already knew this guy was dangerous on the feet, and he was a finisher, and he's got submissions. And then I also showed that I could deal with some of the best grapplers in the world. So that's a nice box to get checked off on my resume. And I think that had a lot to do with Dana and the UFC signing me.
So let's talk about your opponent coming up for your UFC debut here. He actually lost his UFC debut, his last bout. I wonder if you think that that'll have any bearing on how he approaches this fight, and will it make any difference to you at all?
I do think it matters, and I think the time off in between matters because that was quite a while ago, almost a year ago. And he's a competitor. Like he wants to win. He wants to improve. He's going to have a real chip on his shoulder and be putting himself to a very tough training camp. He's certainly showing up on February 19th wanting a win, same as me. So yeah, those guys are dangerous. That kind of desperate back against the wall type of guy who's already a great fighter and a great athlete. Yeah, he's going to be really bringing me a very serious fight that I'm very prepared for on the 19th.
And he seems to think that it's going to be fireworks. I think you guys are kicking off the whole card, and he's promising that there are going to be fireworks and people are going to be wanting to tune in for that. Do you think it's going to be the stand-up battle that he's kind of predicting?
I don't know. I've heard that from a lot of guys that end up shooting in on me pretty quick. So we'll see. I do know that he likes to stand. He's got a really exciting style. It's one of the reasons that I liked the matchup. Was it wasn't necessarily me versus him. It was style versus style and an exciting fight. You know, especially after the Gafurov fight, I really want the ability to show the fans what else I can do now that I showed a lot of my grappling, and then a lot of that was grappling defense too. So I want to show, more offense and more stand up, and I think Jesse brings that element. But that being said, everybody always wants to stand with me until I hit him a few times, and then they don't want to be there. So we'll see what he wants to do when it gets tough in there.
Well, you're paraphrasing Tyson there, right? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
Anybody else want to give some shout outs to?
No, it's just all about my team. I know my teammate Hakeem last weekend came off a big win in the UFC. He looked phenomenal. Basically went in there untouched, and his striking and his just all overall MMA game is just levels ahead of these guys that are already at the highest level in the UFC. So it's a real good kind of confidence boost going into my fight that I'm in the right spot doing the right things with my team at Champions Creed.